When Minnesota became a territory, one of the legislature's first acts was to establish 9 counties. There was little doubt that Stillwater would be named as the county seat for the new Washington County, since it had served in the same capacity in the old St. Croix County of Wisconsin territorial days. Winning this designation was a boost to the local economy. The streets would be bustling with travelers who came to town as part of the steady stream of court cases and legal filings, or to visit the nearby offices of the lawyers, surveyors, and real estate agents. It provided jobs for jailers and clerks. The first territorial court term held in Minnesota began on Monday, August 13, 1849, here in Stillwater. The Minnesota Pioneer newspaper reported,
"On Tuesday morning, a full jury was impaneled and sworn, and very ably charged by the court. The criminal docket was then called. Most of the defendants were without counsel, which embarrassed proceedings considerably. The roll of attorneys is large for a new country. About 20 of the lankiest and hungriest were in attendance at the bar. People seemed to be pleased with the court so far."
A year later, the court was the venue for the first murder trial in Minnesota. The case of a 13-year-old boy who fired a shotgun on a St. Paul street and accidentally killed another youth. The verdict was guilty. In those early years, the Washington County Courthouse, Minnesota's first, was a 3-room frame structure located on the corner of 4th and Chestnut Streets. By 1866, however, there were complaints about the building. The Stillwater Messenger noted that rooms had to be rented to hold county records, and that prisoners were carted off to St. Paul because of the lack of jail space. The structure itself, said the newspaper, was totally unfit for the uses for which it was constructed. In a November 1866 referendum, voters approved the construction of a new building. Left unresolved, however, was where it would be built. One faction wanted to locate the courthouse in the center of town on a block owned by John McCusick, but he drove a hard bargain, and negotiations dragged on. Then, in April 1867, Socrates Nelson, an early settler and real estate investor, stepped forward and offered to give the city the whole of Block 39. It was a generous act, but it also meant that streets would be improved up the steep hill to the courthouse, and from there to the residential lots that Nelson offered for sale nearby. Nelson himself lived only long enough to see ground broken for the new Washington County Courthouse in late April 1867. He died suddenly on May 6, at the age of 53. By that time, Augustus Night had been commissioned to design the building. Night, who was St. Paul's first resident architect, is probably best known as the man who drew the plans of General William LeDuc's mansion at Hastings. One contemporary called Night a man of fine tastes, as many of his buildings indicate. Dramatically located on the crest of an expanse of steep lawn, the Washington County Courthouse reflects the Italianate style of architecture that was popular during those years, with its use of full arch windows and the imposing facade with its balconied portico. After Knight completed his design for the new courthouse, the county commissioners awarded the contract for its construction to George M. Seymour, one of Stillwater's leading contractors. By September 1869, the handsome $3,000 cupola was in place, and work on the interior was progressing, according to the local newspaper, with all possible dispatch. But there was one more delay. The workers could not figure out the pattern for the beautiful English floor tiles. They were about ready to give up when a local contractor, William Willem, offered to help. After considerable experimentation, William finally succeeded in working out the puzzle and slowly completed the job of fitting each tile in place. The winter had nearly passed before the building was ready for use, and it was March 1870 before the first prisoners were safely housed in the jail. Nevertheless, the citizens of Stillwater and Washington County were pleased with what they saw. "The effect on our people is excellent," announced the Stillwater Messenger. You're invited to step inside and tour the courthouse, one of Minnesota's great historic buildings.